Call this meeting to order. It's the Public Works Committee of the City of Hudson, Monday, May 13th. This is our Public Works Committee. First item is roll call, so I will call that Councilmember Brooke.
Here.
Present. And Councilmember Kennedy.
Here.
Present. All the council members are present. Also like to introduce the staff for anyone who might be watching to put some names and faces together. To my left is our city engineer, Aaron McPhee Anderson. To my right is the Director of Public Works and Parks in the city, Mike Mraz, and Executive Assistant who runs the show. And I'm just teasing. Wouldn't do it without you, right, Deb? Deb Andrews also is with us tonight. So we're going to begin item number three on our agenda is approval of minutes. So are there any comments about our the minutes from the prior meeting?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on to item 4, comments and suggestions from citizens present. One thing I'd like to note is we are happy to take input from residents at these meetings. Of course, you can contact us by email or phone. As elected officials, we are on the three of us are on the city website with a link, or of course the city staff is available to assist you. But if there is an issue that anyone would like to bring forward and have a public discussion about it, we always welcome that. So we do allow this time. No one is here present tonight, so we're going to move on to new business, which is allocating remaining ARPA, American Rescue Fund Act, our funds for street maintenance projects. So I will turn that over to staff.
All right, so in front of you tonight is basically a small program to use up the remaining ARPA funds that we have available for street maintenance. So if you remember way back when we were given or earmarked a certain amount of dollars to put towards infrastructure improvements. So I attached a spreadsheet to the issue sheet, kind of going over kind of the allocation, where it was expensed to, each line item. You know, it was cameras, it was fuel system, traffic speed control items, so on and so forth, splash pad. So at the end, the bottom row, we have $43,126.65 remaining. Not saying that amount couldn't go up based on some savings from other projects that have yet to be closed out, which include maybe some traffic control cameras or the splash pad. So there might be a chance for our $43,000 to increase a little bit. But having said that, I had Aaron and Maverick kind of go out and drive around the community to look at some smaller, obviously $43,000 isn't going to get us very far with like a street maintenance project or paving, you know, that type of stuff. So had them go around and put together a small program, which includes like crack filling, some striping, and then also looking at, I wanted them to specifically look at the east leg of the Vine and Carmichael intersection as you're heading out of town on UU. Obviously that's a road that's gotten beaten up over the years, and we've constantly been spray patching it, trying to limp it by. There's an opportunity to do like, it's called a micro mill, which they mill off like a half an inch to an inch of asphalt and then repave it. I don't want to go any deeper because there's loop detectors in that intersection that I don't want to interfere with at this time. And so looking at the spreadsheet, obviously the total cost is $64,965, which is more than what we have in the ARPA for funds. So with that being said, obviously we kind of just want to bring it forward to the Public Works Committee for just brief discussion. The one caveat is the old Highway 35 for $8,400. We would need to have a conversation with the town of Hudson before we would pull the trigger on that one. And they like to kind of have input on the maintenance treatments there. So that's something that we could do at a later date and wouldn't have to be included right away. So I guess with that being said, Aaron, do you want to add anything or did I cover it?
Yeah, I think you covered it well, and we included, I guess for the crack seal locations, they're fairly new roads that we would potentially then seal coat the next year. So it's kind of like the first step before the next maintenance treatment. So and we prioritized them. We couldn't really pick the worst because then that just really adds up. So that's why you'll see like Bella Rose barely had any cracks right now. So it's like pretty low cost to just kind of get those done with. And then the striping, these were the highest priority striping. There was definitely a few other areas we identified, but we felt like these were like the highest priority ones and balancing it with the crack seal, so.
Well, I know that's something that you have mentioned in the past about really taking care of our new streets.
Yeah.
Sort of like buying a new automobile. You got to take it in, do that service as recommended, so that we really get the maximum life out of it. So sometimes people are wondering, why you're working on that street? It's pretty new. My street's a mess, but it's because we want to take care of those new surfaces. And is the crack sealing done in-house, or do we hire that?
So we hire that out. Because this is a smaller project, the county actually offers services to contract out with them.
Okay.
And so we did get a price from them. And then I believe Maverick had contacted Allied.
Yep.
We haven't heard anything back from them.
No, I haven't seen anything back.
No. And so this doesn't have to be voted on tonight. We can come back with definitive quotes from the county and Allied. And we reached out to Allied because they're doing another project locally. It's not in the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah, they did our maintenance project last year, so they
Yeah.
actually had reached out, like, if we were gonna be doing a street maintenance project this year, so we just decided to get another quote.
Yeah, just to compare the
They
two.
wanna
To
be
kind of
on
see
this.
where the county lies with like a contractor too,
Sure.
so.
I guess the overall, what I want to get out of this meeting tonight is just, are we pointed in the right direction? Is this what you want to see this money be spent on? If not, would you like it be spent elsewhere? You know, like on an alley, for instance.
Yeah.
$43,000
Appreciate that.
would be about an alley, right? Typically. So,
A not-so-bad alley.
a not so bad alley, yeah.
Some of them are in tough shape. Thank you. I appreciate that perspective because it is true. I think the American Rescue Plan, those funds were designated in different areas, and that's excellent recap. I appreciate that you showed where that has been spent over the years. There have been several years now, but we are reaching the deadline to spend it all. So there's some prerogative, so I'm open to discussion. What do you think, other members?
So, ARPA funds of 43,000 and this wish list, we'll call it,
Yep.
is 64,900. So, and where's the 19,000
Yeah,
additional coming from?
so I would say that the 8,000 for the striping of Old Highway 35, we would need to reach out to the town of Hudson and get them on board. They might say no. That's their prerogative because it's a 50-50 split on that roadway. So then you're looking at 56,000. So any overages that we would have, I would take it out of our 2024 street reconstruction CIP to cover the difference.
Okay.
That's what I would recommend.
And I'm sure you guys did your due diligence, but it's almost like we have a shopping list going around. All right, now what can we spend this on?
Yeah.
I mean, the alley, one alley versus, for the 12 cars that use that and homeowners.
Yeah.
Again, they're all tax-paying citizens. But, your list of maintenance here would cover affect thousands of people. So not that that's an answer, it's just it's tough to kind of point to something and say we have to do that. So, and I'm all for the aggressive keeping up with the roads and not just waiting until they're crumbling, because we've been living through years and years of knowing what that costs. So,
Okay.
I had a question about the Vine Street intersection. Is that completely ours? I mean, where do
Yep.
we stop maintaining?
Yep, so it's approximately 250 feet from the intersection heading east. So if you drive out that way, you can see a pretty definitive line of where the county has maintained their roadway versus where the city limits is, where's our stops.
So that's a pretty big ticket item, but I'm assuming that since there's work going to be done on Vine, are you thinking we're going to get better pricing this year are you hoping that same company would?
I don't know yet. We didn't talk about that specifically. because we don't have milling in any of our other contracts. We do have paving, so it could be something we.
Different equipment needs to come in.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not
yes.
milling on Vine Street,
Yeah,
we're reconstructing.
reclaiming.
Thank you for clarifying that. We're gonna
So-
talk more in depth about Vine Street, but good point. So it
Yeah.
isn't like they have the equipment there.
Yeah, correct.
I just wondered if it was, I mean, that's a bigger item. We could do all the other items.
Yeah.
With, and then wait and see
Right.
on that one. Just wanted to clarify the thinking of what you thought that priority. I do think, certainly those recently, the Second Street, you know, we want to take the best possible care of Second Street that we can. That's doable in our budget. It's a bigger ticket item, but we could be sure to get that done.
Yeah. Okay.
What other comments?
Yeah, and I agree, and that was going to be my question, so thank you. The one thing I would say with Second Street is just if we can be mindful for our business owners, because it's been such a rough
Yeah.
start to the season with other.
With 94.
Yeah, if we can be really sensitive about when that work would be done.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can schedule in a way, it would take one day to do it. So a mobile operation, but yeah, we could definitely schedule it at a time.
Take
when
up
it's-
part of one lane or one side of
Yeah.
the street?
Yeah.
50, 100 feet at a time?
Yeah, yep,
Something like that?
yep,
As they move along?
yeah. Okay. Well, I think what we'll do, I think we kind of have general direction, Aaron, let's shore up our numbers and we'll bring
yeah.
it back to June we'll have definitive quotes for you to review and then we can make some approvals at that time. Because
Yeah.
like Joyce said, we have to the end of this year to expend those funds. So it's not like it's a huge priority right now, but it's almost June.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other comments, or we'll move on to the next item under new business is 5B, discussion of 2025 infrastructure projects.
Okay, so I'll take this one. So this one is, we received sorry, I can't talk here. The city was awarded the LRIP grant for Vine Street in the amount of $668,000, approximately. And this allows us to essentially roll over that amount of money to next year's, or really any year in the future. And will go towards the Vine Street reconstruction, specific to Vine Street, not Vine and Green. So we applied for that grant, and that's a state grant. So in general, the city is going to bond for $2.5 million in 2025 and 2026. And so I put together a summary of what we're bonding, what this rollover money would be, what we are planning on spending in 2025 on 11th Street. And so basically how much money we would have available to spend in 2025, and it would be enough to do another project essentially. So we could add on another project, more of a large-scale reconstruction project. And so I will say, I kind of caveated here that it is pending the change management request for 11th Street, and basically what that means is we did get a grant for 11th Street in 2025, but they've been doing more final design. They're at the 60% design level. They've done a cost estimate, and it's higher than what was originally planned for the project, just with cost increases. Usually you apply for the grant and it's not constructed for years later. So sometimes if you're not accounting for inflation and things like that, the construction cost is more, but the state funding is capped no matter what. So even if it's like an 80-20 split, up to a certain amount. So we are asking for more money from WISDOT. They call it a change management request. And so they're kind of being like, I guess it sounds like in the past, usually projects would get them. Now they're being a little more conservative, like we'll see and
Yeah.
things like that. So I'm not really sure where we're gonna lie with that. Hopefully we'll know within a month or two if we do get that. So if we don't get that, then we just have to put in a little more money out of our own funds to cover the cost increase on 11th Street. So, this conversation is a little bit, that should be part of it. And so I have attached some exhibits. These are projects we put together a while ago to have just our general infrastructure conversation. And we did update it with the current CIP So the map has current CIP projects up to 2027. The other projects identified in red are projects that, just talking with the city, are more higher priority projects that we would like to do. And then the spreadsheet attached has, you know, some very high level costs associated with some of those projects. So a few of them are over the $2.6 million. So you kind of want to look for the ones that would fall within that 2.6 million. Did I miss anything, Mike? Or-
No. So I think the best course of action, that second attachment that Aaron had put together, the kind of the spreadsheet looking one, right? So the far left column, that's what the approved CIP, so that's been discussed at Finance and Council.
Page 10.
That's page 10.
Out of 18 in our packet.
Thank you. So the far left column, those are the projects that we've discussed in the past and have been earmarked in the CIP. Obviously, need to still go through final bonding for those projects when the time comes. The middle column is other identified street needs that have come up in conversation, whether at this level, common council level, or at the staff level, just based on the deteriorating road conditions that we see out there. And then the far right column are the bicycle and pedestrian needs. And these are based on phone calls that city staff receives and the bike and ped master plan, as well as, critical connections to our bike and ped infrastructure. So I guess kind of what we're looking for tonight, Aaron, are you looking for kind of a direction on what, I'm trying to think about this. So the thing is the earlier we can identify a project to do in 2025, the earlier our staff can get started on topo work, site survey, planning, so on and so forth, right? So typically, we're trying to get in front of it, because right now what's been happening is obviously with Maverick, our engineering tech, he's out in the field, and he's doing engineering site inspection work all the way to the end of October, early November. Well, then that doesn't leave him enough time to do all the preliminary design work, preliminary data collection that you need to design a project. So with the intern this year, we're hoping to maybe get out in front of our projects a little bit earlier, so that we're not hitting our deadlines. We run really tight deadlines around here, just based on our staff.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to give a little bit of breathing space and give our staff a little bit of breather, so that they're not super anxious. So the earlier we can identify projects, the better. Not saying that we have to do it tonight, but maybe just a general discussion on kind of what you're leaning towards.
Yeah, and I will say, just for perspective, like the 11th Street project is a 2025 project as well, and they're already at 60% design. They'll be done with design by August and bidding in November, so this is like a project we're still in the, pre-conception.
But does our staff do any of that design work, or is this
Yeah.
state?
Oh, not for 11th Street.
Not for 11th,
Yeah,
right.
not for 11th. But
Because of
Yeah.
various restrictions and state
yeah,
funding.
and
That started
that's a
real
long
early.
process.
So you
yes.
won't be having to work on that, but just as an example
Yeah.
of how early you get started
Yeah.
on something. I was looking at the list again on the left side where it says approved, because obviously the council
Yeah.
looked and said, yeah, these are great ideas, but there's no funding allocated yet. We haven't bonded, we haven't found out what
Yep.
bonding would cost, et cetera. But I was thinking that the Locust Street was a little higher already on that list, and I see it 2027.
2027.
I mean, we're right out here in our downtown.
Yep.
Right.
Curb is deteriorating, the
Yep.
street, we've got issues there.
Yep, there's a pinch point for the sanitary sewer at the intersection of Locust and Third that's identified in their plan. So it is a need.
You thought it was going to be done earlier?
I did, I thought it was higher, but again, you guys have the
Yeah.
master list, so I was interested to see it
Yeah.
slotted a few years out still.
And the other thing that I'll make comment on is the Hagan Street Bridge in 2025. Obviously, we've been applying for grants for that. We've had 3 failed applications. We are currently applied again for another round of the BIP.
Mhm, and the raise.
And the
Or no,
raise.
is that- yeah.
So if we fail to get those, that would be 5 grant applications on that project. And at some point in time, we got to have a discussion on whether we want to keep beating our heads against the wall and keep spending staff time and consultant time to put these grant applications together, because it's not easy. These are like 200-page documents going to the federal level, right? And so, obviously, you know, that'll be a discussion that we're gonna have after we hear back from this last round. It's like, what do we wanna do here, right? So, just throw that caveat in there too.
Just to piggyback on what Joy was saying, I kind of do remember thinking that Locust was a ways down, but maybe piggybacking on what you mentioned, maybe that's the one we bump up and then we funnel something else in there for 2027.
Yeah, and I think too, correct me if I'm wrong, we will be like looking at the overall 5-year CIP like later this year. Is that correct?
Whenever we go through a bonding cycle, we do review the CIP and try to update it at that time. Yeah.
So that would be the chance to like rearrange things. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
but you're saying bump up to like next year?
because you were looking for
Yeah.
something that was 2.5 million,
Oh,
roughly,
right.
right?
Yep,
Yeah.
correct.
So maybe bump that up and put another
Ah,
2.5
sure. I
million
see.
in that place.
Right.
Got it.
Um,
Yep,
I think that's a good way of doing it. Yeah.
that could definitely,
Could you describe the sidewalk and curb project that's for 2026 that was listed?
we don't have specifics on that. That's just in general, we have the bonding for that for just a sidewalk curb project. We don't have it identified.
That's a specific area?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that, we've already made a plan to do the downtown.
Correct, that's this
sidewalk.
summer.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's happening.
That's
still,
That's
okay.
happening. So
So
every,
this would be just in general, where else in the city
Yep.
do we need to put some?
yep, so we did that sidewalk and curb ramp assessment a few years ago, and basically all we're doing was just kind of ticking off the worst of the worst
Sure.
areas in town. So, you know, we've gotten all like the 1.5-inch deflections taken care of. Now we're down to like the 1/2-inch deflections, and there's like 1,000 of them around town. So basically, that's what that money would go towards.
I see.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Any other comments or, again, it's thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be thinking about these ideas ahead of time and evaluating. Certainly, we appreciate the professional input on what is most urgent, you know, what
Right.
is something that's happening that needs attention sooner. It's a good change,
Yeah.
I suppose, later, even this summer. But, so are you suggesting that perhaps by midsummer or even next month, would you like us to?
What I would recommend is let's wait to hear back from what the state says on our CM request to
yeah.
determine if it's gonna be if we're gonna have 2.6
6.
million or we're gonna have 1.8, because that might dictate too, right? So let's just wait to hear back from them. Once we do, then we'll bring it back here for kind of final consideration, but I would forward that on to Financing Council just to have them basically, like I said, bump up a project in our CIP to do next year. If that sounds good with everyone.
That sounds good. I'm comfortable with
Any other
that.
comments? Great,
Okay.
appreciate that, and thank you for the highlighted map in our packet too. That is helpful to see which streets and which years you're focusing on. All right, moving on then to new business 5C is discuss the 6th Street steps.
Yes.
Can you give us a report for that?
Yep. So, got some pictures from a concerned citizen. So obviously, in our downtown area, the far south end of 6th Street that connects up to kind of the Prospect Park area, there's a set of staircases that basically give access for pedestrians to kind of make a shortcut there, right? I don't even know how old those stairs are, Deb, do you? Okay, so I mean, so obviously they have started to fail due to erosion of the hillside. There has been some undermining of the steps with all the heavy rains that we've been getting over the past several years. There was a concrete flume that has failed, which has led to this problem. So basically brought it forward for general discussion. As I see it, there's kind of 3 ways to go about it, right? It's basically replacement, which is going to be very expensive. Just based on the bid that we got for the City Hall steps, I'm probably looking, ballparking $500,000 to $750,000 to replace those steps. by the time you factor in all the structural engineering, the actual construction, so on and so forth. Repair what's there. So that might include like underpinning, mud jacking with concrete underneath, maybe adding a culvert to capture the stormwater, maybe kind of reconfiguring how that stormwater is captured so it doesn't continue to eat out the hillside, or removal. And that's the third option, which I don't highly recommend because I think it is an important piece of the Hudson community. I would rather see option 1 or 2. Knowing where our budgets lie and all the improvements that we need on our roads and alleys throughout the community. Me personally, I think it's a hard pill to swallow, a large sum of money, $500,000 to replace those. So I guess I'm leaning towards repairing, but I'll open it up to you for general discussion. And basically what I would do is, however you kind of direct staff tonight, then Aaron and I would go out and start to put some numbers together for whatever avenue we want to take, so we have something, concrete, no pun intended, to look at.
I appreciate the 1-3-1 approach, 1 problem, 3 options, 1 recommendation, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
I like that. Replacement does not sound like the wisest use of our resources. I think before we know what the numbers would be to repair it, that's where I would be inclined to think, but I think seeing what those numbers would be, if it's not too much of a time constraint on your end to go that route, that would be my preference, and then come back and make a decision based on that.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, it's been a while since I've been on those stairs, but the railings failed.
Yep.
Right? And it looks like old concrete, but it looks, it's floating in midair at some areas.
Yeah, it's.
So we could, if there's, depending on what contractor, some creative ideas to get it back to, not new level, but for safety reasons, and then usability and kind of the historic value too.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't want to abandon it. And again, if these were cracking and it was, putting Band-Aids on something that's going to go in another 3 or 4 years anyway, but if someone can, again, give us their professional opinion that, some more fill and creative ways to save it, and we can get, I'd want that person to tell us this is a 10-year fix, or, rather than we'll give it a shot. But yeah,
So we may want to reach out to a structural engineer. Then.
I'm thinking that, yeah.
And there might be an opportunity based on what has happened to the hillside and how it is directly related to stormwater and the damage that's. I do see an avenue that we could use some stormwater utility funds to supplement the repair. So,
Great, well, those are good comments and feedback. When you mentioned historic, Mike, that's how I feel about it also. I think that's just a little bit of hidden Hudson. It's a historic stairway that people would use, go up to Prospect Park. That might have been one of the main parks in the day when that was built. And I do think one thing we're certainly committed to our bike and pedestrian plan. This might not be an area that was identified, and obviously it's only for pedestrian, but it's important. If families live up on the hill and want to come to downtown Hudson or come to the park or something, it's a safe avenue for them to come down and then walk on surface streets which have sidewalks, as opposed to attempting to come down 3rd and Laurel, which is heavily signed right now to please do not, forbidden. So I do like that it provides that access point. So I would definitely support looking into, certainly we want to start with repair if we can. I think that's our consensus, but perhaps we should take a vote on it. What would you prefer?
yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Move to direct city staff to get an estimate for repairing the 6th Street steps.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that our city staff will proceed with getting some estimates or a structural idea of what it would take to repair those steps on 6th Street coming down from Prospect. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Thank you. It's passed. Great. Look forward to that. I guess have a lot on your plate here these days. Okay, next item, 5D, downtown parking lot lighting feasibility study.
Yeah, I
Want me
can
to
take
take
it.
it?
I
Yeah,
don't care. I can
so
do it. can go back and forth.
Some of you may recall, this stemmed from concerns from workers in the downtown area. Sarah, you probably recall. Some of our parking lots are not the most well-lit areas, and there was concerns for their safety at night. And so, gosh, it's probably been a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago now. But anyways, we had reached out to SCH to put together a LOE for them to come to do a lighting feasibility study. And basically that's what's in front of you tonight. So what this study would do is basically SCH would evaluate, the parking lots. It'd be Williams large, Williams small, the Phipps lot, and then the Beach House lot. So they would basically come in and review them with their lighting specialists. They would recommend any upgrades that they would provide for the lighting levels, for a more safe and inviting walkable experience. They would basically recommend, based on kind of the lighting code along the riverway, what lights would work, give us estimates on pricing, so on and so forth. So to do all that, the feasibility study would be $7,800. I did talk to Mike Johnson, and he said that the TID, downtown TID, would be able to cover that expense. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what's in front of you tonight. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
So you, obviously, for you to get us where we are right now, you see the value in a professional lighting engineer to do this, as opposed to, yeah, we could put one right here. Sounds
Yeah.
good to me. So again, I trust that you wouldn't drag us to this point without thinking.
Yeah.
And we do owe it to our citizens that rather than, hey, we're doing the best we can and move on, we actually have to address this seriously. So I guess that's my
'cause
question is,
they
I'm assuming
have-
this is needed.
They have the photometric software where, like you said, they'll know exactly where to put the lights based on the wattages, based on the brightness. If it's less bright for the riverway, you got to put more in. If it can be more bright in some other areas
Right.
in the town, they could put less light. That's just stuff that we
Right.
can't do in-house.
And even if you
and
think about like the homes that are right here, then making sure that the lights don't
Exactly, all that.
affect the
Yeah.
homeowners right there.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Downcast illumination versus, horizontal illumination, and yeah, they would factor all that in and have a professional report saying, this is what we would recommend, and then, the costs associated.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we have to have a discussion on that. But at least this gets us, the groundwork for future improvements.
Okay.
Yeah, they have like a specialty lighting. I mean, I don't know if that's all he does, but they're very knowledgeable on lighting. So,
He helped,
Know the details.
their employee helped us on the Second Street lighting upgrades back in 2020, 2021. So very familiar with his work, and he's very, very knowledgeable.
When you talked to Mike Johnson, did you get a sense on what we have left in the downtown TID?
I did not.
Okay, maybe just the next time when because could the downtown TID pay for the lighting then too?
Quite possibly, yes.
Okay, that'd be nice
Yep.
to know.
Great, good questions. Okay, so you would like a motion, and then this would go to finance for the next step?
Yes.
But to show that we've discussed it and approved it.
Yep.
So I would like to have a motion from one of you.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the downtown parking lot lighting feasibility study.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we contract with SEH to do a lighting study for our downtown area at the sum of $7,800. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Thank you. We've passed that. Okay, old business, we do not have anything listed in that category tonight, but we do have a number of project updates. I think if it's okay, we'll take one project up at a time, take questions and so on, and then move on to the next, because there's lots going on here this summer, so. However the staff want to handle
go
it,
for it.
thank you.
yeah, I can take the Vine Street reconstruction project and Interstate 94 impact. So the first update on just the overall 2024 reconstruction project, this morning, actually, we had the pre-construction meeting with the contractor, Haas and Sons, and so we did actually get their schedule, and they are planning on starting Vine kind of right away that first week in June, June 3rd. And it would be done by August 16th and open back to traffic. So, and then they plan to do green. They would get started with green around July 1st and then kind of end at the same time around the middle of August. So that's their schedule. It's always weather dependent. They always, and so we got a good idea of that. We do know, so the Interstate 94, that is a MnDOT project that has definitely affected us here in Hudson. That schedule, according to MnDOT, should be wrapping up the end of June. So, maybe we'll get some relief, come July, for July and August. But right now, we're still planning on moving forward and just making sure our traffic control for a detour route is very clear. We are contacting WISDOT, like the 511 for traffic, so that there can be more word put out there about that Vine Street's gonna be closed. And so hopefully the mapping applications won't be routing people down Vine.
Yeah, because right now, you're seeing a lot of just vehicle and truck traffic. They're getting off at the 2, Carmichael to Vine, come down to Second. They're trying to get Highway 35 north to Stillwater.
Yeah.
And so obviously they won't be able to do that once, June 3rd starts. And so we want to make sure that whenever they're punching in their destination, that it shows Vine Street being closed. Because once you go past, you're stuck, right?
Right.
The other thing, I did reach out to the county this morning. They do have a message board available for us. And so I scheduled that to be delivered next week, Monday, the 20th, and stay on site to June 3rd, which is the start of the project. And I'm going to place it just east of the YMCA as you're driving westbound towards the high school, right? And basically all it's going to say is, you can't put a ton of words on there, right? It's just going to say Vine Street road work begins 6/3. So, and that's what I directed them to. And so they were very helpful in lending that. And I've been in discussions with Robbie Kritschke from the St. Croix County Highway Commissioner quite often about everything that's going on with our traffic patterns. If there's things that we're seeing, definitely contacting him. They've been in touch with Northwest Region, WISDOT. The director, Mr. Menzel, they had discussions, a meeting, and trying to work through some of the things. I think the biggest thing with the I-94 project is the signage from MnDOT was very poor to begin with. The way that they had signed some of their 2 lanes over the 95 exit was very poor, which caused a lot of backup. People didn't realize there was 2 lanes open. Instead, they thought it was just the 1, and that's when we were seeing traffic backed up all the way almost to the 6, right? And so since that, the last couple weeks, it's gotten a little better, not a lot better, but a little better. And kind of what it comes down to is obviously I-94 traffic is, there's a tons of traffic, coming from Wisconsin into Minnesota, and as much as we want to try to reroute traffic, I-94 traffic, a detour is only 3 spots across the river in a 50-mile stretch. It's just the challenge you're going to face when you're working on the bridge that crosses the river, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a deviation of the Vine Street discussion, but Aaron, sorry to.
Yeah, well, and then so just to go over our detour route, so there's not a lot of great options for detouring Vine either.
Right.
So what we are proposing is essentially the through traffic, trying to get through past the high school. We'll go down Carmichael, go over to Cooley, go all the way down to 2nd Street, up 2nd Street, back to Vine. So that's going to be the marked detour. So we have to think about truck traffic. I think a lot of local residents will, do other routes and figure out their ways, but we really didn't want to mark any other, we don't really have any other truck routes kind of through the area besides that. So that'll be the marked route. So
How will you mark it?
detour signage.
Just with signs, and
Like
would you start
normal-
up at the corner of the Carmichael Cooley corner
Yeah,
saying,
We will be getting a specific traffic control plan from the contractor. So we more put, like, the plan handed out here has some specific requirements. They need to then put together, like, the detailed plan. This is where all the signs are going.
is what
We'll
they'll
review
say.
it, adjust it as needed. But yeah, there's gonna be signage. I definitely wanna look for extra signage kind of at Cooley Carmichael, so people kind of know, like, don't keep going, you know, turn here, Vine Street closed. So yeah, it'll be marked along the whole route from beginning, intermediate.
And that'll
to-
be just our in-house signage that we,
No.
they provide that.
Yes,
The
yes.
Haas is doing that,
Yep,
right?
yep, they're
okay.
subcontractor.
They'll be bringing that, they have a
Yes.
contractor that'll come and mark it.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Great.
And then I will just say, though, we are going to make sure that the businesses can still be accessed. So obviously, we don't want people wanting to go to the Y to have to go around that whole route. So they're gonna keep it open for the Y in the professional building. So there'll be like special construction signage saying like YMCA, you know, professional building open, you can come through this way. And then the other direction as well will have like a shorter detour route to kind of access the businesses and the churches. So they just aren't really, feasible routes for the entire detour route. So we are working through those details.
Some of the detour is through neighborhoods that are used to very little traffic.
Yes.
Like the one neighborhood just east of St. Patrick's Church.
Yes.
I'm sure they have high school kids driving through on their way to school, coming and going, but that'll be, you guys have dealt with this before, the phone calls, the concerns, the police department gets called. Just want to do whatever we can to support those residents. In knowing that, I'm definitely very concerned about traffic that'll divert on 11th Street and 17th Street.
I think
So-
the traffic that you're gonna see through that development that you're talking about,
Yes,
Joy.
by Spruce.
Yeah,
and-
by Spruce there. So that's intended just for local traffic to access the church and the YMCA,
Yes.
specifically. So yeah.
Yeah, I
People
mean-
shouldn't be coming up Vine Street trying to.
To cut through.
To cut
We
through.
hope not, right.
That's- Right, because.
Sure.
Yeah.
Usually the first day or two, it takes a while for people
Yeah.
to realize, oh, I've got to reroute, figure this out differently. Sorry, I have more questions at the end. Keep going with.
Yeah. Well, I think, that was the main update, just schedule, kind of detour route.
Are putting back the three-way stop at 17th Street and Cooley as part of this project.
Yeah, so if you guys remember
That'll
a few
help.
years ago,
Yeah.
that's kind of Grandview turns into
By the old Goodwill.
17th.
Okay.
A lot of people kind of be using that intersection, so we'll just stay on top of
Correct, because
that.
people will be coming.
Yeah,
During
Coming southbound on 17th and looking
Yeah.
for a way out, and, we want to watch for safety there.
yep.
Well, I wondered, we had a little discussion with Mike the other day about it. How can we plan to have our flashing speed detectors out and ready, working, with the police department? And what intersection, whatever we can marshal, I don't know if we still have that trailer
Yep.
around, because whenever people are, this is what's happening this last week or so, and you're very gracious how you described it. I know that the city of Hudson did not get any information about I-94 closing until about 3 to 4 days ahead of time. 2 of those were the weekend. It just happened to us, and we've had to adapt and appreciate the city staff working on that. So and this is bad timing. People are, it's the classic, well, why are we doing Vine Street? Well, we've basically been planning it for over a year. And we need to move forward, and it's very time sensitive because of our school district and busing. And so that is why, we actually have incentives built in, a requirement that the contractor get started.
Yep.
So we want to be just mindful of that, and just knowing, you've routed this across here. There's just very little east-west traffic routes available for people. Cooley's going to be busy, so we're going to see people on Laurel then heading south on either 11th or 17th. That is how people will get to the freeway or to those businesses that they want to approach. So I'm just hoping that we can coordinate with the police department and signage. Again, those, even if they're only up there for a few days, it kind of gives people attention. Oh, you're in a neighborhood. I know you're in a rush and you're late to work. but if we could utilize that. I also have commented to the city staff that I have seen at least one truck, a cement truck, actually go up 3rd Street in Laurel, and I want to make certain that we don't have people who do know Hudson enough to know that street to try to slip through there, because that is not appropriate for a truck. And so whether additional signs that your sign department can make, orange flags on them or something to alert people that please do not drive down this, because it's just too narrow, and there's going to be, I just am so worried about
Right.
that. And so, yes, people who know that street and know Hudson might think, I'm just going to cut up there. And I really am quite concerned about the safety of that. So, again, the people who know Hudson are going to they're going to know their routes. They're going to try and find out routes, and we have to watch for speed and safety. And so those are my comments on that. Anyone else on the committee have a thought?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so when we lived this with 2nd and 3rd Street, I will say the police and Public Works were awesome at getting the flashing lights there. And I do think that helps as long as they're there. So
Right.
it definitely does raise some awareness. When you're done, I wanted to talk a little bit more about 94, but if we want to finish the Vine
That
Street.
was all that I had. I just, again, wanted
Oh,
to,
phew.
for the public to know, that's partly why we're discussing it tonight, to know that we are going forward, appreciate the advanced signage.
Yeah.
Because that helps people a little
Prepare,
bit.
yeah, prepare.
To perhaps some notification on the city website would be good too,
Yeah.
on the news page. So that's all that I had for comments right now.
And on that, and maybe it's just being picky, but you'd mentioned that message board or something that
Yeah.
we're gonna have. And you had mentioned road construction or something
Road
like
work,
that.
yeah.
If I saw that, I'd think, oh, there might be a cone in a couple weeks or whatever. Do we, and again, you're the expert at this, but if I saw a road closed on June 3rd or something, in my brain, I'd start thinking, okay, this isn't just a couple of potholes. getting
Yeah, it's a catch-22. I thought of that too, Mike. Because what I didn't want to have happen is all of a sudden we put that out there and it says road closed, when we've been telling the residents up off of Grandview Drive, Chestnut, that you're going to still have access to your homes, which they still will. I mean, they got to keep it. I don't want to have 100. What do you mean it's going to be closed? How am I?
How am I
that, so it's
gonna-
kind of like, one of those things. And I mean, we can talk about
Yeah,
it if it makes
yeah.
more sense to do that and just field the
Right.
phone calls as they come in.
I'd almost maybe rather do that. That's a good
Okay.
idea.
Okay.
Because I feel like we can easily answer to the residents, and we already have sent out letters, and
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I kind of like that idea.
Forward your phone to her.
Yeah, right?
Oh, it already is. Don't worry. Yeah,
I'll
right.
forward it to
Yeah.
you.
This is Mike's idea.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, you guys are
But-
really
Comment.
great at answering questions and putting the public's mind at
Yeah.
ease, or just explaining what's going on. Some of what's happening is unavoidable. Try to
And
help
we don't-
people know.
We, other than second, we haven't experienced a lot of, maybe just by design, but where this street's gonna be closed for a handful of days or weeks or whatever. Usually it is, well, you might have to drive on the shoulder because they're working on one lane. So that's what stuck out to me, is that people won't expect that it's gonna be closed. And then if we do tell them, then
Right.
they might say, oh, that's something I gotta pay attention to, so.
Yeah. I should mention too, just we have been coordinating with private utilities, so some of them, kind of are gonna be doing relocations during construction because they're minor. Comcast is getting out in advance, so there is gonna be a few traffic control things on Vine, probably before June 1st essentially. So if you guys get any calls, there might be confusion, but it is the private utility company. They're gonna keep traffic open. They're not completely shutting it down like we are, but they're sounding like it's gonna have to be a flagged situation where one direction can go at a time on Vine, only for a few days. Oh, they said they're gonna have it for a week, maybe. That would be the most if they ran into complications,
So
but
that's really soon.
that's actually like,
Next 2 weeks.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
really
okay,
soon, yeah.
yeah.
So just, so there's no confusion, that's kind of what's happening too, so. That'll start getting people used to starting.
Start noticing.
Yeah.
Something's happening here, for sure.
So on 94, just a couple quick questions. What is precisely happening? It's really hard to tell.
Okay. So,
What are they doing?
Aaron, do you want to answer that one?
I mean, I think short, they're just, you know how, like, further on 94, they've just been replacing the concrete. They're just finishing that
Right.
to the border. And then, so they just need to switch, so just doing pavement, I don't know if they have to do repairs or full replacement, probably full
It
replacement.
looked like full replacement.
Yeah,
I tried
I'm
to
thinking.
avoid it, but I've driven
Yeah,
by once.
I've
driven
done it
once.
like once.
Same here.
And honestly, MnDOT's website doesn't give a lot of details. I've looked and it's kind of like, they're basically just improving the pavement
Okay.
in this area. I don't think they're adding lanes or anything like that.
Okay. And do we have a sense, really, do you think their commitment by the end of June is realistic, do you think?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know how MnDOT, you know, if they're pretty good about that or
I would say there's
the last few years with the rest of the project, but
a lot of pressure on them,
Yeah.
obviously, to get in and out of there from this side of the river.
yeah.
I would be surprised if it went longer than that, as long as we stay fairly dry.
Another question about the timeline for Vine Street. Is it going to need to be closed to residents only the whole time, or they do a lot of prep work, get started, and then there's an interval where it's completely closed?
They'll just close it right away.
They will.
Yeah,
So really-
I mean, it just makes it simpler. You're not constantly
Sure.
having
Dealing
to
with traffic coming
change.
through.
Yeah, it's just same expectation for people to,
Because they're already talking about reclaiming the
Yeah,
road that
literally
afternoon, Monday afternoon
yeah.
and Tuesday. So they're
Yeah.
gonna close it and they're gonna start reclaiming.
yeah, so.
All right, thank you. Well, thanks for all the thoughtfulness and planning, and yes, let's do our best to communicate with our residents so we can at least help people who are in Hudson know how to avoid the issue, and we'll hopefully the signage will assist people who are visiting, coming through town. Okay, the next item then on project update is the STP Urban Grant that was submitted for Carmichael Road.
Yeah, so this one, we just received word, we didn't receive the grant for Carmichael Road. I put it together a few months ago, and it was basically to turn the 2-lane section of Carmichael into 4 lanes, which is kind of the eventual plan between, you know, Hillcrest, where the Hudson Medical Center went, and Vine Street. So eventually, we'd want that to go to 4 lanes and, you know, accommodate future growth and things. And so I think that, you know, people in the county feels like it is a great project. It is also an expensive project. I think I estimated around $13 million. And so I knew I was taking a little bit of a risk because I had heard, you know, that would be a bigger project that they would be awarding, but I know it's a good project. So it sounds like they awarded like only 5 projects
Yeah.
throughout the state.
For communities under
Or-
20,000 population.
Okay, yeah, for our, population size, and they were all approximately or a total of 10 million, I think. So I just assumed, you know, about 2 million for each project. So we were definitely asking for a lot. I'll kind of keep that in the back of my head for future. Maybe there's other opportunities, because I think it'd be a lot to swallow unless we really piecemeal it, you know, for us to kind of take it on just with our own funds. So, so we just got word we didn't get that one. So that's the update there.
Okay, Well, thank you for applying. I know it
Yeah.
takes time and energy, and you need to focus on that application process, but we appreciate the effort. Next item is the update about the downtown APS installations.
Yep, so this is the downtown, the accessible pedestrian signal, so the push buttons, at Vine and Walnut, and Second Street. So this has been an ongoing topic for a while, and we finally have them installed. So you've seen them, they have trash bags over them right now. Essentially, the electrical contractor installed them, then we have Tapco, kind of the supplier, come in and like program them. So they're gonna be coming Wednesday morning. So it should be opened up and working, you know, Wednesday afternoon. That's the schedule right now, and then that will be done.
Nice.
So,
That's great. That's great. I do appreciate that. it took a little work to find electrician and to get that contract or that bid.
Yes.
So, and that's an amenity because we have a number of visually impaired residents in our area that'll be able to move around more safely in our downtown, which is a big bonus. Item D under project update is the 2024 sidewalk and alley replacement projects.
This one, we just wanted to, let everyone know it's still on our radar.
Right.
But we, haven't made too much progress. We've just, there's been a lot going on lately, so we still plan to get that design and do that internally. We have started the plan sheets and, it really shouldn't take too much of an effort to finish them up and get them out. But I would expect we probably wouldn't go out to bid for at least a month. So it would probably be more of a late summer, early fall construction, I would anticipate.
And when would you anticipate like letting residents know? Think like July-ish?
I would maybe want to do it like June.
Okay.
But yeah, and kind of finalize the engineer's report with the assessment stuff.
Because when you go out to bid, how long do you give the bid?
3 weeks.
Okay. So you are kind of waiting for the bid, so you kind of know what the price will be for sure. Okay.
Yeah, we usually do we could do it, that's the thing, it's like we're so close where it almost makes sense to wait until after we get the bid. Otherwise, it's like, well, here's the estimate, but in 3 weeks, we're gonna know the exact estimate, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess it might make sense to wait as far as assessment calculations and things, but.
I mean, that's what I would think too,
Yeah,
and that's
then
kind
you're
of,
not
yeah.
getting a surprise. Yeah.
And phone calls.
So they're listed together here and sort of being treated as the same
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
But we've committed to 2 segments of alleys.
Yes.
And
Yep.
that's what we're planning on.
Yes.
So then, I guess we can see what the costs come back.
Yeah.
But the sidewalk is more of, we're trying to replace as many as we can in the downtown
Yes.
business district, is that correct?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
correct. And
Oh, yeah.
Aaron and Maverick have gone around and basically flagged all those that
Sure.
are in need of replacement due to deflection, major cracking, trip hazards. And so, like I said, they have them kind of a list, they're just putting them into the plan sheets.
So like replacing a panel
Yes.
or
Yeah.
things like that?
Yes.
So it's not going to be a huge inconvenience to the business owners?
Correct,
like
yeah.
their
It's
whole-
not like we're taking out entire blocks of sidewalk,
Sure.
correct?
Yeah, correct.
From what I understand, yeah,
The
okay.
biggest stretch will be in front of Dick's, so
Right.
I don't know if people,
Yes, that has
that one
really-
is very bad.
That is bad. That is a bad one.
So, but
So-
it's not really shouldn't have much of an impact.
So that gives us a little wiggle room that depending on the bids, hopefully we can still keep our commitment to the alleys.
Oh, yeah,
and do
yeah.
as much sidewalk as we
Yeah.
can afford. I
Correct.
mean,
Yeah.
Yep.
the exact number we had off our budget right now, so we'll wait to hear from you.
And actually, the sidewalk cost, so, our assessment policy does have the downtown district, or commercial businesses essentially pay for 100% of it.
Okay.
So that's, I guess, what we're gonna go forward with, and anything over that, or that doesn't really qualify for the assessments, I think will be out of the TIF funds. That's kind of what we talked
Okay.
about a few months ago.
Thanks for the clarification. So
Yeah,
that wouldn't
so it's
necessarily
really
be
not-
affecting our summer budget.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
Just want to make, yes, so
Yep.
as the staff has a lot on their to-do list, but right, moving it forward, because I know getting a timely bid and getting on a list for one of the contractors
Yeah.
is key too.
And I
but-
think it's a project that contractors can do pretty quickly, so,
maybe
you
late
know,
summer, fall,
I'm
they
hoping
like
we don't
that.
have issues with getting bids
Sure.
or anything.
Correct.
That's great, very good. Okay, any other comments or questions on that one? And now, project update, E is update on the Public Works facility.
Yeah. So actually at 3 o'clock today, I had both Cedar Corp and Kraus Anderson in the building, kind of have a kickoff meeting for the facility. We went over kind of estimated schedule, kind of the scope, the roles of each, company and how that works throughout this process. Obviously, this is what they do it all the time, so they kind of know exactly, and they're using acronyms that are like over my head. It's like, and they both say, we're here, We're here to serve the client, give them the best product as possible under budget. So that's what I want to hear. And so kind of they gave kind of the rough schedule, and I kind of asked the question, I'm like, well, what does that look like as far as having involvement from Public Works Committee, Council, so on and so forth. So they said to keep a monthly update on the agenda. And then as they progress through kind of the design phase, when they think it's appropriate, that they have good numbers for the estimate as well as design, like 30%, 60%, 9%, that they would come and give a presentation and answer any questions that you might have. The biggest thing is going to be if we start doing improvements that are not within the budget, that's when tough decisions will have to be made. We got to cut, a restroom renovation, or we got to cut office renovations in order to get a door to get access. So those will be conversations that we'll probably have down the road. But just kind of want to let you know that, like I said, we've had the kickoff meeting. We got another follow-up meeting here in a couple weeks, and that'll be more looking at general site layout, kind of getting the nitty-gritty of design, and then actually already starting to put together some numbers for some of the improvements that have been identified. So, yeah, it started. So,
Great.
yeah.
That's great. Any questions for Mike? I did want to ask you and I didn't give you advance notice of this, sorry, if we could have an update on the City Hall stairs and ramp project.
Yep.
Did you go back to the bidding, the contractors who bid, and how was that received? Where are we on that?
So we awarded the contract to Lift Bridge Builders. We got the agreement signed with them.
Okay.
So they're under contract. Have been in contact with Tim, the job superintendent, and he is very optimistic that he can have that project completed by the end of July.
Oh, great.
Nice.
So within the next 2 months, they plan on being here, having that basically project completed over the next 2 months. And kind of, we had indicated kind of the dates in mind that we had heard from the clerk's office that, these are a no-go, right?
Yeah.
We got to have access to the building. They said, shouldn't be an issue. So again, weather dependent, hopefully weather cooperates and we can get the project done. So, yeah.
So that entrance would be completely closed?
Correct.
For
Yep.
a certain time
Yep.
period?
And once we kind of have the exact date when they're going to start the demo, we'll definitely want to update the city website, and we'll probably just touch base at a common council meeting like the week prior, saying FYI, this is going to be starting, and just so try to get the word out as much as possible.
Great.
Or maybe we'll have a sign at the front desk. I don't know if that's worth it or not, but yeah.
That's good, very good, nice to hear that. And so, again, because we do have a primary election
Yeah.
in the state of Wisconsin in August this year, and we did discuss how this is important accessibility for our residents for voting, and of course, it's been a very big presidential election this fall. So that's great, thank you for that update. Does anyone else have a question or comment, or any other communications for future agendas?
Move to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.